Hello, Victorians. Today we are playing as Greece. Greece, of course, was one of the world's oldest civilizations. But in 1836, Greece was a very young nation, despite a very long history. Um, it just finished a war of independence that gave it the independence from the Ottoman Empire, became an independent nation. I think a couple of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, Treaty of Constantinople, it became a fully independent country. Um, Although there's still a couple of provinces inside Ottoman Empire that Greece lay claim to. So, for example, here Thessaly. Thessaly is part of the Ottoman Empire, but it's also Greek homeland. It's not even a Ottoman homeland. Uh, Macedonia, of course, Thrace, um, and I think part of Anatolia, Aden is also part of the Greek homeland. Um, Crete Island is also a Greek homeland, but it was under control of Egypt, which at that time was a autonomous. It should be an autonomous um, subject of fully autonomous subject of the Ottoman Empire. But here it's listed as an independent country with its own tributary on a truce with um, with the Ottomans for another 4 years. So Greece came into existence as an independent country through its independence war. We'll talk about that a little bit later because it is important to know. It defines our diplomatic situation as well as the relationship with our practically only neighbor because it's on the tip of the peninsula, the Balkan. Um, Interestingly, through a very narrow part called Isthmus Corinth. This part is Peloponnese. We may have some of you may have heard of this place in history, Peloponnesian history, Peloponnesian War. This is where Sparta was, whereas the bigger part, the more densely populated part, Attica, is where Athens is and the capital of the New Greece. Incidentally, Athens was not capital of the New Greece until their ruler Otto, this guy, moved to Greece, and he moved the capital from Peloponnese to Attica to Athens. It used to be in Peloponnese. Talking about Otto, Otto, as you can see from the name Otto von Wittelsbach, was a German, was a Bavarian. There was not necessarily Germany back then. Was a Bavarian prince. He claimed some distant descendants from the Byzantium Empire and was put on the throne of the newly founded Greek kingdom by Great Britain, France, and Russia, the three countries that helped Greece win its independence from the Ottoman Empire. In history, Otto was never particularly popular among Greek people, and eventually he had to flee the country. He was deposed by Greek people and had to leave the country. For a couple of different reasons. One is that he's, Bavarian, or the Bavaria is probably, relatively speaking, a German culture that's closer to Greek culture. But when he tried to implement a Bavarian institution, those discipline, the German things on Greece, which mostly is just beach, and it didn't go well, as you can imagine. Here he's listed as a moderator in terms of ideology, but in reality he was quite conservative. And also he's a Catholic, being a Southern German. He was Catholic, and Greece was Orthodox. So the religious difference made his reign more difficult. But anyway, we have in 1836, Otto was the ruler of Greece, and he ruled Greece as an absolute monarchy. In a couple of years later, he would, facing a insurrection, he would grant Greece a constitution, turning the country into a constitutional monarchy. But for the time being, he ruled it with a absolute monarchy, means he has all the power. Although interestingly, here it's listed as a oligarchy rather than autocracy. I think autocracy will be closer to what really was. I mentioned that Greece won its independence by the help of the three major countries, major European powers, Britain, Russia, and France, and that's why starting the game and owed obligations to these three countries, and it has a truce that another year with Ottoman. The independence war happened 4 years ago, and typically, I think it's a 4 year truce, in 4 or 5 year truce. And but anyway, the independence war happened 4 years ago, concluded 4 years ago. and there's one more year in the truce with the Ottoman. Once the truce expires, we will start the war to claim Thessaly, which is where we have a claim, as you can see from here, and it's a Greek homeland. We may probably, depending on how it goes, we'll claim one or two more states from the Ottomans. We'll talk about it a little bit more later. Ottoman was kind of a big problem for Europe back then. It was the decline of the Ottoman. It was the the gradual decline that actually eventually lead to the First World War. They failed to control a multi-ethnic Balkans under control, and got into a lot of countries. And one of the nationalists shot the Austrian prince, etc. So we'll try to get what we deserve from a declining Ottoman Empire, as everybody else will be doing, especially Egypt and Russia. These two countries are going to put a lot of pressure on the Ottomans. And leads us to the last point, which is we will try to form, or should I say, restore the Byzantium Empire. And you can see from the map, for us to restore the Byzantine Empire, we need to conquer the southern half of the Balkans and the western part of Anatolia. This part of Turkey is called Anatolia. The Turkish people came from east. The Ottoman dynasty, they led the Turkish people into Anatolia. Through this, they of course conquered Constantinople in 1453 and launched a incursion into Europe. And they actually had a lot of trouble with Austria. Austria, being the Holy Roman Empire back then, was kind of the defender of Europe, and the Ottomans besieged Vienna, the capital of Austria, twice. Anyway, that's a separate topic and better covered in another different context. We will need to take 10 states from the Ottoman Empire to form the Byzantine, and we will also, I think we need to remain a monarchy for us to restore the Byzantine Empire, which came to its end in 1453, almost 400 years ago. And that's what we do. Probably will try to get Greece back, which currently is under the control of Egypt. This is what in history they call Greek irredentism. Basically, Greece, they think they should be a bigger country, and actually they lay claim to pretty much all the, as we saw here, pretty much this part, western Anatolia as well as southern Balkans. But as you can see from this map, there were the Bulgarians, part of the land that they claim for them, the Greek claim for themselves actually belongs to the Bulgarians. And consequently, in history, Greece ran into some troubles with Bulgaria and Albania and Italy. Italy in World War II invaded Greece through Albania, which was an Italian protectorate back then. That's about the context of the game. And what we'll do here is we're gonna raise the tax. We're gonna jack it up to the top, give us a little bit more resources. Being a small country, we have enough authority to do what we want. We're going to introduce promote social mobility in Attica and Peloponnese. We're going to encourage the resource industry in Peloponnese, which is where we're going to build some iron mines. As you can see, we have a shortage of iron. And it's critical for us to industrialize. Economically, we will try to industrialize our cells as quickly as possible. For the time being, we will need to import some iron before our own iron mine come online. Technology-wise, we're going to focus on production technology and the society. I think I'm going to go for society first, which allows the academia, which allows us to build university and improve our education access. We're not going to be researching military technologies, because we will be, at least for the first part of the game, relying on those major European powers and for our military efforts. And the only target we have will be the Ottoman. And every single European power, maybe not the Austrian or French. The French have like a strange tendency of striking alliance with Ottomans. With Muslim in general. They've been doing that for more than 1,000 years. Austria has an ambivalent relationship with Ottoman. The Ottoman Empire actually teamed up with Austria and Germany. German Empire in 1836. They didn't exist yet during World War I. So one of these two may actually team up with Ottoman. But in any case, we'll be relying on Britain, Russia, and hopefully these two big guys as well for our military efforts against the Ottoman. We will face a shortage problem as we industrialize ourselves, and the strategy is to join some big custom unions, Russia, French, and We already have top relations with Britain, but they're not going to take us in. And we'll all be fine. Britain probably gives us the best access because they already have a global supply chain. So we'll be tapping into, for example, some of like rubber, not immediately, but eventually, tea, silk, opium. Opium is going to be very important. It's a necessity for our military. So Britain has the best global supply chain, and it will be ideal purely from a resource perspective for us to join their customs union. But I'll do with French or Russian as well. Being part of the Russian customs union makes it easier for us to strike a rapport with Russia, which will be a formidable ally in the war with upcoming war with Ottoman, because Russia borders Ottoman Empire in a couple of different places actually. In the Balkan here, as well as in the Caucasus. I think historically they call this a Danube front, where it's at the northern tip of the Balkan. I think we're going to declare rival with those small Italian. We declare Ottoman Empire, of course, as our rival. But to be safe, we're going to declare some of the small Italian nations. So that gives us more diplomatic influence, which allows us to improve relations with the big guys, Austria, Prussia. Prussia is a little bit distant, but I'd rather err on the safe side. We're gonna improve relations with Prussia. We're gonna build a construction sector. Currently, we don't have any. We're gonna build one construction sector. That's pretty much all we can afford for the time being in Attica, and then we are going to build all the iron mines possible in Peloponnese. We have, as you can see, we have very limited supply of a handful of resources. We want to switch the production method, but doing so immediately will lead to a series of shortages. We don't have enough glass, we don't have coal, we don't have enough tool. Yeah, we don't have tool. We don't have anything basically. But we want to do that, and we will do that as soon as we join one of the customs unions, and that will instantly solve all of our resource shortage problems. And we're also going to, on the legislative side, we're going to do. First we're going to reform our government. Currently, has okay legitimacy, but by making a more inclusive government, we can boost our legitimacy. That also gives us more legislature options. So I think we're going for this one. We're going to invite the church and the armed force to join the government. Yeah, that gives us more options. And I think we're going for landed voting. Let's see, diplomacy. Yeah, this is where we are. Historically, Greece was on pretty good terms with Russia, France, and Britain, and particularly Britain and Russia, who took a more keen interest in helping it win independence. France kind of jumped on the wagon last minute because it didn't want Greece to fall entirely into the influence of Britain and Russia. In France, we're part of the three country consortium that helped Greece win its independence, but not as keen as Britain and Russia. So this is pretty accurate description of what happened. Austria had an ambivalent relationship with the Ottoman Empire in history. Like I said, they had a couple of wars. Ottoman made their way to Vienna twice, although in both cases they failed to take Vienna. I think the first was in 1529, and that was the first, if possibly the only, defeat of Suleiman the Magnificent. He's a pretty good warrior, as you probably can tell from his title. And then in 1683, again, they failed to take Vienna. The Lithuanian-Polish, they call it Holy Alliance, the Lithuanian-Polish force led the biggest cavalry charge in human history and destroyed the Ottoman Empire's force. And that kind of marked the pinnacle of the Ottoman Empire. They've been on a declining road ever since. But despite the differences, Austria actually was more sympathetic towards the Ottoman Empire. In the 19th century, eventually they would team up in World War I. Austria probably didn't want, they don't always see Russia as a bigger threat, I think, and didn't want Ottoman to completely fall. They would plan to partition Ottoman Empire as they did to Poland. So Austria didn't want that to happen to the Ottoman Empire as, a vehicle to keep Russia's expansionism checked. A year has gone by, and now our truce with Ottomans have expired. We're also part of the British market, so we will start our war with Ottoman to take back Thessaly. Thessaly is a predominantly Greek nation. In this war, because we're not part of the Russian Empire yet, we will sway Austria to fight for us. And in addition to Thessaly, we'll also take back Macedonia, which is also predominantly Greek state. We will sway Austria with a humiliation goal, because they don't have any territorial ambition for the Ottoman Empire. Claiming these two states will use up our maneuver points, and the war, yeah, the war has broken out. The war should be relatively easy. We don't really have to do anything. We have set our armies to be in defending mode in the only frontier we have with the Ottomans, and we would just expect the Austrians to do the heavy lifting, which they will. Although Austria is not necessarily the strongest army in Europe in 1837, it is still far more powerful, overwhelmingly so, compared with the Ottoman, which is suffering a debuff due to implementing Tanzimat. We can talk about that a little bit more when we're playing the Ottoman Empire, but they suffer massive nerf in the beginning of this game. So as you can see, the Austrians have very quickly pushed into the Balkans and made their way to Constantinople, eastern Thrace, where the capital of the Ottoman Empire is. And we really don't have to do anything. Our army has been in defending mode all the time. And once the Austrians have taken Constantinople, then the war will come to a swift conclusion. We can see Ottomans are trying to do a naval invasion. Uh, in Greece, we just have to deploy our 6 battalions to defend the beachhead. Um, they don't stand a chance. I think it's just a gesture move. And we're very close to the end of the war. Um, yeah, that's it. Once we have taken these 2 states back, Macedonia and Western Thrace and Thessaly, we will, of course, incorporate them into our states. We will also reset the production method in these 3 states. I think in Western Thrace, you probably need to promote the national values. After the first war, we will just take the time to develop our economy. We're part of the British markets. As you can see, we just, that solves all of our shortage problems. And we just now we can uh, change the production method of most of our buildings that will give a boost to our economy as well as fiscal policy. There is a civil war in Britain, and that happens a lot. I usually take this as an opportunity to enter into defense pact with Britain. They have no problem crushing the revolt, and then after the civil war, they will. Oh, Russia wants us to join their custom union, and they're yeah, okay. Now that the British in a civil war, I think it makes more sense. Russia also interesting wants to be in a defensive pact with us. Of course, sure, absolutely. So now we are in a defensive pact with both Britain and Russia. That would deter the Ottomans from doing anything stupid uh, to us. We still have we don't have a shortage problem anymore, but several materials are still pretty pricey in our local market. Most importantly, um, the iron. Um, we're also going to, I think, go with uh, National Guard. And if we have more bureaucracy, we will also be able to improve the institution of our law enforcement and education access. That's basically it. We're just waiting for the truce to expire, then we can continue the war. It's May the 29th again, and of course, time for another war with the Ottomans. Will be the second war between Greece and the Ottoman Empire. This time, we're going to take back a couple of more provinces from the Ottomans. I mean, historically, the first Greco-Turkish war happened in 1897 and didn't go very well for Greece because they were totally unprepared. And then they took some time to modernize their army, and they did very well in the first Balkan War. Um, this time, we're going to sway Russia. Now that we have a defense pact with Russia, we're also part of the Russian custom union. It will be easier for us to sway them. We're going to take back several states where Greek population is majority. We're going to sway Russia with a treaty port. Yeah, in Black Sea. And then we're going to take back uh, Northern Thrace as well as um, I think Skopje. Yeah, Skopje and Albania. Um, we're not going to take word Persian. Historically, the Balkan Peninsula was called the powder keg of Europe because it's a multi-ethnicity place, and it's very difficult to rule it as a single country, either for Austria or for the Ottomans. Plus, Russia had a very strong incentive to conquer. I mean, it sees itself as a protector of all the Slav people, like the Serbians, um, in the peninsula. So it became more and more complicated, both in terms of domestic policy and in terms of diplomacy. So we're not going to take those states where Greek population is not a majority. As you can see, the war is even easier this time because the Ottomans have two borders with the Russians and has one front with the Greece. So almost like, yeah, now the two Sicilies, which have been swayed by the Ottomans, are out of the war. And we occupy practically the entirety of the Ottoman Empire. The war will be finished soon enough. Meanwhile, Prussia and Russia have entered into another war, but fortunately, the Greco-Turkish war ended soon enough before the Russians had to divert their armies away to the Prussian-Russian border. Uh, And that's really it. We will do the same thing. We will incorporate the newly acquired states. We will also promote national values in those, northern Thrace as well as Skopje, Albania, um, to curtail the separation, potential secession effort movement there. And once we have a more liberal cultural law, it will be easier to assimilate Albanian populations into Greece. As soon as the truce expires again, we will continue our war effort with the Ottomans, and this time we will take back Eastern Thrace. Like in the last war, I mean, Russia will most likely ally with us, and the two Sicilies, on the other hand, will join the Ottomans, which, from a historical perspective, doesn't really make that much sense because two Sicilies never really were that close to the Ottomans. And the Venetians and the Genoese were very close to the Ottomans due to their collaboration in the slave trade, which the Ottomans sponsored those raids into steppe of Tatar and Russia to capture people and subsequently sell for slaves, but never really the two Sicilies. But it's what it is in this game. The two Sicilies almost always teamed with the Ottomans to fight the Greek army. Sway Russian with anything you want. Just be careful not to give them any territory you may need to form the Byzantine Empire. You can always sway them with obligation. Pretty open-minded, pretty easy. You can sway them with an obligation, with a humiliation war goal, or with a treaty port. Um, and it's again, another relatively easy war, simply because the Russian army was just so much bigger, better trained, compared with the Ottoman Empire's army or the two Sicilies. We can see in this war the Russians are attempting a naval invasion in Rome, which is kind of ironic given well, I mean, Russia sees itself as the descendants of the Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire that fell to Ottoman invasion, and then now they are fighting the actual Rome, and in a war that's targeted towards the Muslims, the Ottoman Empire. Um, Again, relatively easy war. The Russians would just push into the Ottoman Empire relatively quickly to Sicily. So I think they will leave the war soon enough. Never really have a big army anyway. It actually would make more sense if France team up with the Ottoman Empire. Like I mentioned earlier, for hundreds of years, France actually maintained alliance with the Ottomans. here we can elect a monument to, now the war is over. We can elect a monument to the king, we choose not to. Um, Otto was never particularly popular with Greek people, and the relationship became even worse when his wife couldn't produce an heir to the throne, which means that the throne will go to one of Otto's younger brothers when he passed away, and the younger brothers will continue to be Catholics rather than Orthodox. Now that we've got those new territories, we're actually a major power, which allow us to declare interest um, in 6 new places, 7 new places, and that makes passing some colonization war more present because we can expand in Africa, be part of this global play. We're also going to pass racial segregation wall, which will suppress the discrimination. And in the last war, we will take back Western Aegean Islands. That's the last missing piece in our puzzle to form Byzantium again. We will sway Russia this time with a conquer stay war goal. We will give them Dobruja, which is currently a state that splits between Bulgaria and Romania. Um, the Russians see themselves as actually there was a treaty that established Russia as the protector of all the Greek Orthodox people from the 18th century. So they always see themselves from a religious perspective, a protector of the Greece, and consequently a rival of the Ottomans. And the Ottomans this time they have again swayed to Sicilies, and they also want to take back certain provinces from us. We'll see how it goes. All we need is just they're giving. They're giving so we can form now. Yeah, now we are Byzantium again. We have different flag, and with this purple color territory on the map, which is of course not the height in terms of territorial area, nor when Byzantium was at its peak. At its peak, it controlled Italy as well, and the northern part of the Balkan Peninsula. But good enough, for most of the time it was this big. And then it's really up to you what to do with it. It's still early. It's only the 50s. There are a lot of ways to go from here, really up to the new nation.